Hey, my friend told me you do commissions. Yeah, I do. Cool, what are your prices? Bust line art for $5, bust colored for $10, full body line art for $15, full body for colored is $20. I'll take half up front for everything but bust line arts. I want a full body colored, but $20 is way too much. Will you do $10? Sorry, but I don't do discounts. The price is take it or leave it. That's ridiculous. No one's ever gonna spend that much for that crappy art. I mean, my backlog of orders might disagree with you. If you can't pay for full body art, I can do colored busts for $10. I don't want a bust, I want a full body. I know, but you can't pay for it. You can pay for a bust. Oh, can't pay for it, lol. I make more in a day than you make in a month. Well, in that case, take all my art you want, your majesty. I had no idea I was dealing with such a high-class individual as you. F you. I don't know why anyone buys your crappy art. I'm giving you one last chance to accept my offer, then you're getting blocked. It's a no from me, love. F you. You sure do love naughty words, don't you? F off. No, you. That's it, you're getting blocked. Welcome back to the internet, everybody, where we take a look at some very entitled beggars. I know that's not actually a board, but that's what I'm going to call it today because they're all the same stories. So we're going to read some choosing beggars stories. This one is called Roommate Doesn't Buy His Own Groceries and Complains About What I Buy. So I had a roommate once who paid like $100 a month because it's all he could afford, and he was supposed to buy his own groceries. Never bought his own stuff, always expected me to give him rides whenever he needed it, even if he would F me over, and he didn't even pay rent on most of the time. One time this dude told me, hey, next time you buy pop, don't get that low-calorie stuff, get some normal pop. That was my breaking point. I told him to stop mooching off me and buy his own stuff, so he moved out a week later. Worst roommate I've had to this day. Most of these stories are going to be pretty short, but the last one will be a full-sized one. Choosing beggar wants money for the bus. So beggars are pretty common downtown here. I was running errands between shops and a woman approached me. Excuse me, can you spare some money for bus fare? So me, already suspecting this story is bullcrap, but knowing exactly how to piss her off, I said, you're in luck. I have a spare bus ticket. Here you go. I hand her a bus ticket. She gives me a look of absolute defeat. Oh, thank you. Walks off to beg someone else. I continued with my errands, then sat on a bench nearby a few minutes later, at which point the choosing beggar approaches again. Excuse me, having no tact left, you already asked me and I gave you a bus ticket. Yeah, but don't you have any money? I need to take a taxi. I just say F off, and I leave. It would feel like more of a victory if she wasn't already flagging somebody else down. I still miss that bus ticket. That's the thing, like, so many panhandlers, they don't actually need to panhandle. They're actually just too lazy to get a job. I know not all of them are like that, but it is usually good if you give them something other than money. You know that they don't always spend that money well. On to choosing beggar wants me to pay him for giving him a free pipe organ. So my mom used to play the pipe organ. She was really good too. She could play like really fast medieval style pipe music. Well, that was years ago, and for years she's had their pipe organ sitting in the living room. And other than it being kind of a cool show of my friends, we never really did anything with it. Eventually, once she realized that none of the kids wanted to inherit her pipe organ and she was done playing it, she decided to get rid of it. So I helped her make a Craigslist ad to offer it up to whoever would come and get it. So choosing beggar shows up with a big truck and I help him load it up. Only then does he decide to inspect it and discovers a few dents on one or two pipes. He said that I did this while loading, and since we took ownership of the pipe organ inside our house, now I owe him money for damaging his property. I told him that the dents were already there, but he disagrees. I tell him I'm not giving him any money. You literally just got a free pipe organ and you should be happy with it. He grumbles and eventually goes on his way. What the heck? Why would you... If somebody's giving you something for free, why would you ever feel entitled to that being perfect? I mean, if you ever get anything free, then that should just be standard that you're getting it as is. But I guess some people are just a little bit more entitled than others. So it's called Wife's Friend Wants Our Old Place Rent-Free. So we recently bought our first home, and we'll be moving in early June, but keeping the rental for the entire month so the kids can finish school, and so the move will be less stressful. While out with a few of her friends today, one of which is a choosing beggar, the choosing beggar asks my wife if she could keep the apartment under our names, so that she could live there and not face the rent increase. She also said that since we're keeping the apartment in June, which is already paid for, we had to give the first and last month's rent, that she shouldn't have to pay rent for her first month. My wife simply said no, and continued catching up with her friends. For additional context, the choosing beggar is always blowing her money on expensive clothes and phones when she doesn't make very much. She also asked us for money on multiple occasions, and the one time we gave it to her, she never paid us back, claiming that we didn't need the money. You know, I always hate it when people complain that they don't have enough money for the things they need, and then you look at what they're spending their money on, and they're usually just blowing it on useless crap. Well, they're always gonna live a crappy life doing that. So this one's called Police Have Been Notified. So I posted a used laptop for $150. I get an email from a guy next town over, about a 45-minute drive, saying, $50, but you gotta deliver it to me. I don't reply because it's a pretty lowball offer, and I have a low tolerance for stupid buyers. 2 days later, he says, I knew it was a scam. Police have been notified. So let me get this straight. You want me to deliver a laptop to you 45 minutes away for less than half my asking price, and I have to pay for the gas, and the police would care why exactly? Hey, if there's anything you've learned from these choosing beggars stories is that once somebody makes an offer, then that deal is finalized, so you have to go through with it. So it's called, My Classmate Thinks It's Fine for Us to Spend All Our Money on Him. So this might be a little overdramatic, I don't know. I have a classmate which I am good friends with. He never has money, but we had this conversation a few days ago. He says, let's go to the store and get a drink. I say, sure. We get to the store, go over to the drink section. He picks out a bottle that is like €3 or something like that. I say, I don't have that much money on me. I really didn't. I had like €1.50 on me. He says, really? I want this one. I don't have any money on me. Yeah, I forgot the rest at home. He says, well, then let's go to your house and get more money. I say, nah, let's just buy something cheaper. He says, but I want this one. I say, too bad. If you don't want the 99-cent one, we can go away. He's just like, fine, let's just take the cheaper one. Sounds good to me. It pisses me off that he does this all the time and gets away with it with most of my friends who have more money than me. That's why you don't reveal that you have a lot of money, because everyone will be after it. And now to the final. This one's an actual full-size story for once. This one's called, Lady, you got the stupid card for free, just let it go. So I was a fellow customer in this scenario. This happened maybe 2 weeks ago. It requires a chunk of backstory, and I apologize. So my family had some stock in a resort that we can use whenever. And so for my older brother's birthday, my mom decided to fly him out to us and then spend her spring break week there with him, me, and my 2 nieces. We stayed there for 4 days. The first full day we had on property, it rained, and was a little chilly. Atypical weather for my state, even at just this time of year, but in any case, for people acclimated to much warmer weather, it was not a pool kind of day. To make a long story short, by the end of the day we had 10 free cards with 100 points of game credits, each for the arcade, probably to make up for the weather, and we decided to use them all that day, and then, at the end of the trip, take my nieces to get them some prizes. At the aforementioned end of the trip, I alone took them back for the prizes because my mom and brother went to breakfast. And then it happened. We're at the counter with a very helpful and polite guy working with my nieces to ensure their choices, when enter stage right, Karen and her husband. They have cards much like my nieces and I do, and I assume they're planning on redeeming their points like the girls were. These cards are pretty much the same cards you would get when you purchase credits, and they had, I guess you could say, a fatal flaw. You couldn't stack them. Most of the games in the arcade were 50 to 75 points, with some games strewn about that needed 100 plus, and one game of pinball that used 25 points. But if you used 2 of these 100-point freebie cards on some 75-point games, you couldn't swipe both on a 50-point game. All that was left was pinball. For us, this hadn't been a problem. My brother was good at pinball, so the day we played all the games, he finished off with several rounds of pinball, so we didn't have any points left on the cards. But for Karen, this might have well been the end of the freaking world. When she first comes up, she asks the employee if she can speak to him for a moment. Since my niece is being very decisive, I nod for him to go ahead and handle her while I work with the girls. Not paying the utmost attention, I admit, but she grabs my focus quickly. So he says, "Hi, how can I help you?" She's like, "We got these cards for free the other day, and we used 75 points on each of them. That machine over there isn't letting us swipe them both to use 50 points. Unfortunately, our games aren't able to do that." "I see. Well, can you combine the points on them both up here?" Sorry, no. All I can really do is cash the points up here." "So what am I supposed to do?" I mutter something about pinball, but she either doesn't notice or thinks I'm talking to the girls, or perhaps I was too quiet. You can always add more points with the machine there, meaning on her own dime, or there's pinball in the corner. She slides a glance at the machine. "But we got these for free." "Oh, hold up. You are so not about to play this game, right? Be a bad example for your own kids all you want, but do not screw up around my nieces. The employee says, I'm really sorry, but there's nothing I can do for you. And then we hear the true call of the Karen. Can you get me to your manager? I'm thinking to myself, oh, sugar, honey, iced tea, she went there. As a note, I don't even mentally curse around my nieces to avoid ever potentially saying anything out loud, so I quite literally thought that. As the nice employee radios for manager, my very thin filter snaps just a bit. So you got something for free and decided to complain about it anyways, just because you can't use it the way you think you deserve? She says, exactly. Y'all, I could have smacked her just for even considering I agreed with her. Instead, I did what any good Southern girl would do, shut my mouth and finally looked over at her to give her the most condescending, bless your heart, expression I could think she's ever seen. She, at least, has the common decency to realize I'm not being sympathetic and shuts her mouth. Employee and I share a look. He nods to me and I just shrug. When the manager gets there, the employee comes back to work with my nieces, who, for being young, were very patient and I was very proud. As a side note, something he did that I don't think he was supposed to was worked with the girls to get the most out of their points. When the eldest pointed to a small packet of Smarties for 5 points, he leaned in like he was telling her a secret and said that he had a little roll of Smarties that only cost 1 point each, and came with more in a pack and helped her score some. These rolls weren't being kept with the other prizes and he had to enter them manually. I apologized to him a bit after she and the manager were gone for having to put up with the Karen in the first place. He shrugged it off. I don't know the exact words of the exchange between the manager and our villain of the story, since the employee had come back working with my nieces, and I was paying them more attention. Her husband never once paid any mind to anything going on. I do know Karen left before we did, and she hung around at a table just outside the arcade, seemingly continuing to complain, while we sat out in the sun at another table eating candy and waiting on my mom and brother. At one point she even looked over and seemed to see me / stare at me once. I just turned my attention back to my youngest niece, like she wasn't there. Added bonus points, older niece asked me why Karen had been so rude. Faith in humanity a little skewered, faith in my niece is rock solid. So, TLDR, we went on vacation, still had to deal with a Karen at an arcade. When life gave her ice cream, she threw it back at everyone's face and called it a lemon. I notice in a lot of these stories that whenever there's the entitled Karen that's just going off that the husband just seems to not notice, I think it's because that the husband is so used to it that they're just like, oh boy, here we go again. I don't want to get involved. She does this all the time. I'm just going to try and ignore it. I feel bad for those husbands. But maybe just look out for that when you're when you're marrying somebody. Anyways, that does it for Choosing Beggars. I think this one was a little longer than usual, but yesterday's was shorter than usual, so I wanted to make up for it. Anyways, that's all for today, so thanks for watching.